Namaste, Sangeeta.
Office bearers of PMA, the participants, which includes the legal facts. The PMA is a 45-year-old independent trust and public organization. It was formed with one basic idea of giving it back to the business sector and leaving it better than it previously was. The prime premise upon which the PMA rests its ideology is promoting the exchange of knowledge, experience, and ideas of sound management principles. A lot of efforts go into visualizing this dream of providing a wide range of services to improve the standards of management practices throughout all the sectors. PMA regularly hosts and organizes webinars, conferences, trainings, lectures, discussions, and meetings. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. I have at the beginning of the session also announced a few sessions, upcoming webinars. All of them are free. You are advised to kindly visit the website. It is regularly updated. And should you have any concerns about registering or any other concerns, you can get in touch with any of the office bearers. I will now move on to the next segment, and I'm going to welcome Tupe sir out here. He's one of the vice presidents of PMA. He's a veteran. I think all of us have always seen him on these seminars because it is believed that he hardly misses any of them. So just a brief intro for those who are seeing him for the first time. Not only PMA, he also offers his services for Laghu Udyog Bharti. He's a VP over there also. Laghu Udyog Bharti is a similar organization which works for the betterment of the business sector. He's a secretary with Aranyeshwar Shikshan Sansthan, and he's also been the independent director for 2 limited companies. Tupe sir, we would really like to hear from you at this point. Thank you.
Madam, can you see my PPT now?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So like I mentioned in the beginning, this webinar has been brought to us by the COE Finance, which is headed by a very competent and able director, Shri Vivek Jain ji. So, and he has, the COE for Finance has very carefully and very smartly charted out a vision statement, which states that the purpose is to empower the members and other stakeholders in the sphere of financial management. Just a little brief about Vivek Jain sir. He's always there in all these programs, but I found his profile very interesting, and I'll tell you the reason why. He's a fellow member of the ICAI, and behind him he has an illustrious 31 years in the corporate sector, and he last held the prestigious CFO post for a public limited company. He regularly offers his services to startups and MSMEs through his own firm. He is also involved with a lot of philanthropic causes. Now, the reason why I said I found him interesting was because he has often been heard saying that throughout his illustrious span of more than 3 decades, his colleagues, his mentors have generously shared their knowledge with him. And he has now decided that he wishes to do the same and to carry the legacy forward. So Vivek Jain sir, we would really like to hear from you at this point before we jump into Ajeri sir's presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Rucha, for a nice introduction. I'm grateful to you. Center of Excellence for Finance is one of the verticals of the PMA, as the Madam Rucha informed. And this COE is primarily aimed to cater to the needs of the finance, and we want everybody should be the financially. I consider that myself also is still not fully literate in the finance, even after working for so many years. So we wish that everybody becomes the financial literate. The reason being, the finance is a backbone of any business, any organization, or any household. Even in today's competitive world, it becomes more necessary to have the financial knowledge and financial wisdom, so that we can take the judicious decision for any kind of when it comes to the money matter or the related to the money matter issue. Because it is extremely important even for our personal life as well. At PMA, it's our vision to empower every stakeholder in the sphere of financial management. Today's program is one such attempt by the Center of Excellence for the Finance under Pune Management Association, where we will be extending this program so that we all become little more financial literate, because it is a continuous process of learning the finance, because of the continuous changes in the regulations, laws, and the opportunities in the finance field and the financial issues. Thank you very much, Madam Rucha. Over to you, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So we are now going to move on to our main segment of this webinar, and I'm going to introduce you to Professor Shantilal Hajeri ji. He has been working with the Suryadatta Institute of Management since 2013. He has a vast teaching experience of 25 years, out of which 13 years have been into full-time profession of teaching. He is an approved faculty with the Pune University and has taught over 60 subjects all across India. Also, he has worked with Bank of Maharashtra for over 27 years, and he once held the position of a branch manager. His list of qualifications and certifications is long and varied. He regularly posts and presents papers in different conferences and other various platforms. He's a regular member of the PMA, and his contribution is indeed noteworthy. And I think as a participant myself, I'm really curious to know what can finance about non-finance be all about. So Shantilal Hajeri ji, I'm now going to hand it over to you, wishing you all the best.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your kind words. A hearty welcome to you all for this webinar on finance for non-finance professionals. We are already late, so I will be just touching some topics which I am going to cover today, because it is a very vast subject. In 1 hour, it is very difficult to cover. So some of the things I have listed, which I intend to cover, are pricing policies, cost sheet, financial decisions, important terms in finance, introduction to accounting, types of accounting, branches of accounting, journey of accounting, and factors of production. So these are, I will be relating to the finance for a businessman or from MSME point of view, not from student point of view. So when a person carries any business, he is interested in knowing two things: whether his business is in profit or loss. That is one thing. And secondly, how much he has to pay to others and how much he has to receive from others. These things he has to know so that he can take 3 types of decisions. One is financial decision, that is about raising of finance. Another is about investment decision, how to manage that profit, either by way of dividend payment or retention in the business. So many decisions you have to take. These are the 3 main classification of decisions. So any businessman, whether he is a finance person or non-finance person, he has to take these decisions. So let us know the meaning of accounting and financial management before we proceed further. What is accounting basically? Because they are related. Accounting and finance are related. So accounting is an art of recording, classifying, summarizing in a significant manner and in terms of money, transactions and events which are of a financial character, and interpreting the results thereof. That is the definition of accounting. And what is financial management? According to Bonneville and Dewey, financial management means raising, providing, managing of all the money, capital or funds of any kind to be used in connection with the business. So my presentation will be pertaining to these 2 things, accounting and financial management. I will be using very layman's language, not technical language. In any organization, there are basically 5 departments. Earlier there used to be 4, now IT has become one of the integral part of the organization. Finance department, human resource department, production department, marketing department, and information technology. So all these 5 are pillars of an organization, the department of organization, but all the 5 departments are interconnected with each other. There is interrelation between them, there is interaction between them, there has to be coordination between them. So all these people, even though they are specialists in particular field, they should know something of other things. So the finance person should know something of HR, production, marketing, and IT. So similarly now, remaining 4 things, 4 departments, the people working there, they are non-finance people, but they should also have some knowledge about finance, because when they interact with finance people, they should have basic knowledge about finance. So with that intention, this program is arranged so that the people who are working in non-finance department should have some basic understanding about finance department apart from their own department. So everybody should know his own department plus some knowledge about his other departments. That is the idea for conducting this program. So we can have also HR for non-HR, operation for non-operation, marketing for non-marketing people, IT for non-IT people. Such programs can also be arranged by PMA from time to time. So I'll start with a sloka. Slokardhyana pravakshami eduktam grantha koti bihi paropakara punyaya papaya parapidanam. So the meaning is given here. So whatever is told through crores of books granthas, it can be, the gist can be told in just half sloka. What is that half sloka? परोपकार पुण्य कारक है और दूसरे को पीड़ा देना पाप कारक है. Same thing, whatever is told in finance through thousands of books by thousands of authors, it can be also told in half sloka. What is that half sloka? If your selling price is more than the cost price, you make profit. And if your cost price is more than your selling price, you make loss. That's the gist of every financial management or everything about management. SP CP ne adhika labhaya, CP SP ne adhikam nashtam. So half slok covers entire financial management. Because financial management and the purpose of other management is to earn profit, and the formula of profit is selling price minus cost price. So all the non-finance people, finance people should know these three things: sales, cost, and profit. So ultimately it comes to the pricing policy, because selling price, when you talk about selling price, the non-finance people should always know what is meant by pricing policy, because it is going to affect our profitability. So what is a pricing policy? It is a strategy of a business to decide the price so as to achieve the goals of the organization and to meet the competition. Okay? So price is a balance between the customers and the profit. Okay? Price should be low enough to attract new customers and retain the existing customers, and also at the same time it should be high enough to give reasonable profit to stakeholders. Because I have seen some of my, as a banker, I have seen a lot of customers who are in loss because they sell at a price which is less than their cost price. Why they sell? Because they don't calculate their price correctly, cost price correctly. So the basic equation for business is selling price is equal to cost price plus profit. Our aim is to earn profit. So we have to have a selling price which is more than the cost price. So a firm should calculate the cost of production as accurately as possible. Then only you can have a proper selling price. Then you can add a profit to it to arrive at a selling price. So if a firm does not calculate their cost of production as accurately as possible, it may end up in overpricing or underpricing, because they don't know the correct cost. When they fix the price, either it will be overpricing or it may be underpricing. Both the situations are not desirable. So what happens if it is overpricing? You are charging more. And if you charge more, you will lose your customers. And if you charge less, you lose your profit. So both situations are not acceptable. So this shows the importance of calculating cost of production as accurately as possible. So the non-finance people should always know about costing. Costing is more important, selling price is more important, and profitability is more important. Let us take an example. Cost of production is always there, whether you calculate it or not. It is always there. So let us assume the cost price is 100. Now a person has not calculated his cost price, but someone is fixing selling price arbitrarily, approximately. So one person, he is fixing selling price as 90, even though his cost price is 100. Then what will happen to his sales? Naturally, his price is less. He can have high sales, but in spite of high sales, in spite of high turnover, he will be in loss. The result is loss. Because he is not following the basic principle of the business. Your selling price has to be more than your cost price. That he is not following. And he is not following because he is not knowing his cost price correctly. He doesn't have the knowledge about cost. Second person, he has fixed his price as 125. So naturally, when the cost is 125% profit margin, selling price can be 125, can be reasonable selling price. He can have some moderate sales, but he will be making profit. And third person, he has priced his product at 200 rupees. Now what will happen to his sales? Somebody is selling at 125, somebody is selling at 90, because consumer is also doing his research. He will not buy from one person. He will compare the rates. So naturally, if your selling price is 200, your sales will be negligible and you will be in loss. So only when your selling price is accurate or correct, then you will make profit. If it is less than the cost price, you will make loss. If it is very high compared to cost price, you will make loss because people will not buy from you. So this pricing policy, every businessman has to understand, because profit is a balance between customers and your selling price. It is a balancing act. So when you fix your selling price, you should know that you are earning some profit, but at the same time, it is small enough to attract the customers and retain the existing customers. So that is a balancing act. Now let us look at the pricing policy. When you decide to sell a product, you should identify your target group. I am covering only 3 policies. There are so many pricing policies. Basic 3 I am covering from common sense point of view. The first policy is low margin, high turnover policy. From every customer, they want to get small profit, but they want to cover a large number of customers. Suppose their cost is 100, they want to add a profit of 10 rupees. Their selling price is 110, but they want their target group is LIG and EWS. What is LIG? Low income group people and economically weaker section people. So they are giving high turnover, but they cannot buy the product if your selling price is high. So these people want to give reasonable profit, small margin, but they want to have more turnover. For some people, second people, they want to have reasonable margin with reasonable turnover. Then that they may add 25 rupees as a profit margin. They fix selling price as 125 and their target group is middle income group. And some people have a policy of high margin and low turnover policy. They charge high, but their target group is high income group and high net worth individuals. So when we decide to sell our product, we should first identify our target group. Then we can decide our policies about pricing and our cost. So these are the 5 income group basically. MIG is the middle finger is MIG, middle income group. Thumb is high net worth individual. Index finger is high income group. Ring finger is low income group. And small finger is, little finger is economically weaker section. So this is called segmentation, market segmentation. So we should, our pricing policy should be based on the segment of the market which we are going to cater to. So SP is equal to CP plus profit. It means if you want to earn profit, 2 conditions have to be fulfilled. Selling price should be more than the cost price. That is one basic condition. And second condition, you should sell. If you cannot sell, you cannot earn profit. Then you should identify the gap in the above 2 points. If your selling price is less than the cost price, you will make loss. And if you are not able to sell also, you will make loss. So you have to fulfill both the conditions, then only you can earn profit. And 50% of the new companies, startups fail every year because they don't fulfill the above 2 conditions. Either their selling price is very high, so they are not able to sell. Or their selling price is less than the cost price or equal to cost price, they are not making enough profit. But the whole purpose is to make profit. So therefore, we should know the cost price exactly. We should add reasonable profit margin. We fix selling price, reasonable selling price. If you want to increase your profit, we have to increase our sales. We have to reduce our cost. Cost management, cost control, and increasing the revenue. They are the 2 main aims of the financial management. So there are 2 goals. Financial goals can be divided into 2 parts. One is profit maximization, because everybody wants to earn more profit. And second is wealth creation and wealth maximization. So when you earn more profit, you invest in the business, flowing back of profit, or you diversify, it means you create wealth. So the short-term objective is to increase the earning per share. When you increase your profit, per share profit also goes up. Then the market price of the share goes up. So market price of the share becomes asset for the shareholder. So more profit leads to more wealth creation, and more wealth creation leads to more profit. That cycle continues. So when you create more wealth, the book value of the share increases. Because the book value of the share increases, market price also increases. And shareholders also become rich along with you. So ultimately what will come to the financial goals? Profit is the main goal. To achieve the profit, you should have sales. To achieve the sales, you should have production. And to have the production, you require raw materials and other resources, machinery and all. And for purchasing these things, you require capital. So the finance person job is to capital management and profit management. In between things are managed by operations people, production people, marketing people. Okay. So capital, 5 is about capital. Assessment of capital. How much capital I require? Acquisition of capital. From what sources I am getting it? So assessment of capital is called cost of project. And acquisition of capital is called sources of finance. From what source I am getting. Then allocation of capital for fixed asset and current assets. Then we are coming about analysis of performance. How much sales we have got, what is the growth sales, what is the profit margin, that is analysis of performance. And then appropriation of profit. After earning profit, what to do with the profit, how to manage the profit. So these are the 5 A's about financial goals. So our development should be sustainable development. We call it as a sustainable development. Sustainable means whatever growth is there, it should continue forever. That is called sustainable development. So naturally, our aim should also have match with sustainability. What is sustainability? Our goal should be profit. Profit means it is only economical goal. Profit is an economical goal. But also we should have social goal. Social goal includes people, customers, society. And third one is environmental goal. That is about planet or environment. So this is called a triple P. So for any business, whatever business we should do, we should not harm the society. It should be useful to the society. Then we should not damage the environment. We should not cause damage to the planet. So to goals. Now we are talking about goals. What is goal? I am at present. First of all, we should know where I am. I am at A, for example. So for any management, financial management or otherwise, first of all, I should know where I am. How much capital I got, how much profit I got, how much sales I got. So that's present situation. Then I should have a goal. So A is where I am and B is where I want to be. First of all, we should have goal. Without goal, you cannot manage anything. You should have some goals, targets. We call them as the SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So where I am and where I want to be. When these 2 points are decided, my direction of growth is decided. In which direction I have to move is decided. How much gap is decided. So I am at A and I want to be at B. So this is the gap. I want to go from A to B means I have to bridge this gap. Now how to bridge this gap? B minus A is the gap. How do I reach from A to B? How do I bridge this gap? For that, I have to find a solution for bridging the gap. So when you do analysis, then there can be 3 situations. Expectation, that is goal, and actual. There can be gap, that is one situation. Or there can be another situation where my goal and my actual is same. I have achieved my goal already. Then what to do? Then naturally I have to increase my goal. We should not be satisfied with any growth. Once we achieve goal, we have to increase our goals, our targets. If I achieve a target of 100 crores, you can fix a target of 120 crores. So you have to keep on increasing your goals. That is situation when you are in situation 2. And when you are in situation 3, your actual performance is more than your expectation, more than your target. Then you cannot remain complacent that you have achieved the target. Now you have to go for higher aims. So aim high should be your principle. You have to keep on increasing your goals as and when you achieve them, step by step. So the types of financial decisions are basically 5 A's I told you: assessment of capital, that is cost of project; acquisition of capital, sources of finance, whether you want to take it from X bank or Y bank, what is the rate of interest you have to compare; cost of capital, it is called cost of capital, rate of interest and other charges; allocation of capital for the fixed assets; appropriation of profit, that is called profit management; and analysis of performance. These are the main 5 financial decisions. A MSME who is not from non-finance, he is from non-finance background, he should also have knowledge about these 5 things. So how much he has invested in the business. He cannot say I am from non-finance, I don't know how much I invested. He should know how much business money he has invested in the business. From what sources he has taken it. How much is from own capital, how much is from borrowed capital. He should be aware of that. Some of the other important financial decisions are budgeting, debt servicing decisions, management of surplus funds, valuation of the firms, make or buy decisions, repair or replace decisions, employ or outsource human resource decisions, expand or consolidation decisions, merger and acquisition decisions, tax planning, assessment of risk, and pricing of the products. These are other important decisions taken in respect of the financial area. So before we start, some of the words which I am going to use in the presentation, let us know the meaning of that. Some important terms. Asset, what is meant by asset? Okay, finance people are aware of it, But anybody who is from non-finance background, for his information, asset means all the property owned by the business. Whatever you own, land, building, machinery, stock, that is all your assets. Money you have to receive from somebody is your asset. Account, record of all the transactions pertaining to a person, asset, liability, income or expenditure. Suppose you have got bank account, no? So it means only transactions pertaining to your account are available in one place. That is why it is called your account. Account means pertaining to one person. All the transactions are available in one place. What is balance sheet? We use this word frequently, balance sheet. What is balance sheet? It is the summarized statement of all the assets and liabilities. What is meant by bills payable? The amount payable to the suppliers. The bills receivable, the amount receivable from the customers. What is meant by capital? The amount of funds invested by the owner in the business. That is called capital. It can be own capital or it can be borrowed capital. Both together it is called capital. What is meant by creditor? A supplier to whom the business owns money. It means you have purchased something on credit, then the person is called creditor. The amount is called bills payable, but the person is called creditor. Debtor, it is the opposite of creditor. A customer who owes money to you, if you have sold something on credit, you are yet to receive the money, then he is called debtor. Depreciation. So whenever you buy any asset, the value of that money, value goes down, value of that asset goes down, then that is called depreciation. It may go down due to time factor or use or both. So what is meant by drawings? Normally in partnership firm and proprietary firm it happens. They withdraw some money from the business for their personal expenses. That is called drawings. Either they may withdraw goods or they may withdraw money. Then that is called drawings. Withdrawal of their capital. Journal. This is called the book of original entry, where the financial transactions are recorded in the chronological order for the first time. Whenever the transaction takes place, you make an entry in the book. That book is called journal. Now it is done in the computers, but the word still is called journalizing only. Ledger. The book where the transactions of similar nature are pooled together under one account. So whatever entries are made in the journal, they are classified according to the name of the person or name of the asset in one place. Because journal, all entries are date-wise. They are mixed. So they are separated. So journalizing is called recording. Ledger is called as classifying the transactions account-wise. Liabilities. All the amount owned by the business to various providers of funds or services. Liability means whatever you have taken on loan or purchased on credit, that is called liability. You have to pay back. That is called liability. In liability, basically there are two types, term liability and current liability. Term liability is anything payable after 1 year, like term loans. They are called as a term liability. Current liability payable within 1 year. If you have taken overdraft or cash credit from bank, or if you have purchased goods on credit, they are called as current liability. These are the common words which we everyday use in the finance. There is a question, concept, accounting concept. There is subject like accounting concept. What is meant by accounting concept? One is business entity concept. It means business is different, owner is different. All the accounting is done from business point of view. That is business entity concept. What is the concept of dual aspect? One transaction has got two effects. One is debit, another is credit. That is called dual aspect, double entry bookkeeping. So every debit has got corresponding credit. So when one transaction takes place, the transaction is done in two accounts. That is called dual aspect. Concept of going concern, it means when you start a business, you start with intention to continue forever. There is a date of opening, but there is no date of closure. A business may close because of other reasons, but intention is not to close it. That is called concept of going concern. Owners may change, nature of business may change, but business is likely to continue forever. Concept of accounting period. Normally 1st April to 31st March is taken as accounting period. So that we'll close the figures, we'll arrive at profit, we'll start fresh accounting from the next 1st April. That is called accounting period. Concept of cost. So whatever money you are actually spent in acquiring an asset, that amount you enter in the books, not the market value. That is called concept of cost. Concept of money measurement. The things which can be measured in money, they are only made entry in accounts and finance. For example, employees are very skillful or loyal. There is no mention about these things in the accounts and finance because they are not measured in terms of money. Matching concept, all the income and expenditure pertaining to during a accounting period, that is 1st April to 31st March, they are matched. Income pertaining to 1st April to 31st March are matched with the expenditure of that period to arrive at the correct profit for that period. And realization concept means whatever money actually you are issued, income you are issued, that is taken as income. And whatever expenditure you actually paid, that is taken as expenditure. That is called realization concept or cash concept. A matching concept can be called as accrual concept. So there are three accounting conventions: conservatism, consistency, and materiality. Conservatism means whenever you expect any income, you have to take it. Suppose you expect an income of 100 rupees, you have to think it as 90 rupees only. You have to be conservative when you anticipate your income, project your income. And whenever you project your expenditure, you have to be liberal. If you are likely to spend 100, you may think that it may go to 110. So expenditure, you have to be liberal. Income, you have to be conservative. Consistency means whatever policy you are following, they should be continued for years together. Every year you should not change your policy. That is called consistency. And materiality, some items are very low value. In value, they are very small amount. Then they are not affecting the profit loss highly. Then they should be taken as expenditure, even though they may be taken as assets as per theory. For example, a pen can be an asset. But if you take it as asset, you have to maintain in the furniture and stock, you have to make depreciation. So better to show it as expenditure. That is, it is not going to make a material difference for your profitability. So if any expenditure which is not having major impact on profitability, you can show them as expenditure. Like signboards, you have spent say 5,000 rupees on the board. So you can show it as expenditure, not as an asset. That is called materiality concept. Now, whenever you make expenditures or payments, they can be classified into three categories. They are called types of expenditure. One is capital expenditure, another is revenue expenditure, and third one is deferred revenue expenditure. So what is capital expenditure? Purchase of fixed assets is called capital expenditure. Land, building, furniture, machinery, they are example of capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure, purchase of raw material, that is revenue expenditure. So if you purchase a car, it is capital expenditure. Expenses on petrol is an example of revenue expenditure. So purchase of car is capital expenditure. Purchase of petrol is a revenue expenditure. What is deferred revenue expenditure? So it is a revenue expenditure treated as capital expenditure. That is called deferred revenue expenditure. The money spent on research and development or VRS scheme, some lump sum amount is spent. That amount is actually revenue expenditure as per theory. But if you debit that amount in 1 year, your profit loss will be affected badly in that year. So then you divide that expenditure into next 4 years, 5 years. That is called deferred revenue expenditure. Suppose you have a VRS scheme and you have spent say 10 crore rupees. Then you can debit 2 crores every year in next 5 years. So revenue expenditure is deferred. Deferred means in installment it is debited, shown as expenditure. That is called deferred revenue expenditure. In case of receipts also, there are two receipts, capital receipts and revenue receipts. So if you have taken loan, that is a capital receipt. And sales, if you have done sales and you have got money for that, that is a revenue receipt. In accounting, we have got basically three branches: cost accounting, financial accounting, and management accounting. So what is cost accounting? Estimation of cost of production for the purpose of fixing selling price. That is what I told in the introduction. Because it is very important to know the cost of production. A financial accounting is the results of the business in the form of balance sheet and profit loss statement. That is financial accounting. What is management accounting? It is analysis and interpretation of cost accounting and financial accounting for the purpose of decision making and future planning. That is management accounting. So basically management accounting is done by management, top management. Cost accounting is taken as a base. Information available in cost accounting and financial accounting used by the top management for some managerial decision making, then that is called management accounting. So here the management may be non-finance person, but he has to take decisions. So whatever decision he takes are called, part of them is coming under management accounting. Now you should know the meaning of non-operating income and non-operating loss also, expenditure also. So non-operating means any income or expenditure not pertaining to your main business. That is called non-operating. Any income pertaining to your business is called operating income and operating expenditure. So not pertaining to that business is called a non-operating income. Suppose you have purchased shares for 1 lakh rupees and market price has become 1,50,000. You sell them, you make a profit of 50,000. That is non-operating income. So non-operating income is an income which is earned due to profit on sale of fixed assets, or an income which is earned at the time of issue of shares and debentures with a premium. Example, book value of a machinery is rupees 45,000. Suppose you have got old machine, you want to sell it. Its value in the book is 45,000. And if you sell it for 50,000, you make a profit of 5,000. But that profit is not from your business. Then that is called non-operating income. Similarly, we have got non-operating loss also. Same thing, suppose the machinery value is 45,000. If you sell it for 40,000, you will be making a non-operating loss of 5,000. Because this operating profit and non-operating losses are shown separately because they are not related to business. They are part of the final profit and loss, but they are shown separately. So what is the sequence of accounting or journey of accounting? First of all, a transaction takes place, which you call it as a financial transaction. What is a financial transaction? A transaction involving receipt or payment of money. If a transaction doesn't involve receipt or payment of money, then it is not entered in the accounts or in finance. So this transaction can involve receipt or payment of money in the past or in the present or in the future. Then also it is a financial transaction. So if you go to bank and ask for a loan, inquire for a loan, it is not a final transaction. If you ask for a quotation, it is not a final transaction. If you give a quotation, it is not a final transaction. So it should involve in receipt or payment of money either in the past or in the present or in the future. Then it is called financial transaction. So once the transaction takes place, we record it in a books of account. That book is called journal, and making entry in the journal is called journalizing. So journalizing is nothing but recording a financial transaction in a format. Okay? There are basically 5 columns: date, account, ledger folio, debit and credit. Now what is ledger posting? All the entries in the journal, they are classified, posted in the relevant account. That is called ledger posting. Because a journal is maintained, another book is maintained called ledger. So journal is for date wise. As and when transaction takes place, we make entry. But in ledger, the journal, they are classified according to account. So again entered in another book, that is called ledger posting. That book is called ledger, and making entry in that ledger is called ledger posting. Then every ledger posting, that account has got balance. The balances are listed and summary is prepared. And that summary statement is called trial balance. So what is trial balance? Summary of all the balances of all the accounts. That is called summarizing. Then the trial balance includes all the accounts, but accounts pertaining to the assets and liabilities, they are taken separately as balance sheet, and accounts pertaining to income and expenditure are shown separately in profit and loss account. That is called reporting. Then after balance sheet and profit and loss, we are analyzing the performance through ratio analysis and cash flow statement. That is called analyzing. So the accounting is an art of recording, classifying, summarizing, reporting and analyzing a financial transaction in a systematic manner. What do you mean by systematic manner? In a proper format, in a standardized format. That is systematic manner. So transactions go through journalizing, ledger posting. Now most of the companies are using computers for this, either tally package or their own software. So ledger posting onwards, everything is taken care of by the computers, softwares. But journalizing has to be still done by manually only. You have to make the entry in the computer also. So now everybody should learn journalizing. Rest of the things are taken care of by the software. But journal, which account to debit and which account to credit, that has to be decided by the person only, not by the computer. So journalizing is decided by manually, rest of the things are taken care by software. So when you decide, we have to decide debit and credit. And you make an entry in the journal account. Which account to debit, which account to credit. So these rules are called as golden rules of accounting. And when to debit and when to credit depends upon types of accounts. There are basically three types of accounts. Personal accounts, accounts of the persons, and the persons include artificial persons like companies, banks, government. So your account with a bank is a personal account. Example of personal account. Real accounts means accounts of the physical assets like furniture, building, machinery, computers. They are called real account. Cash account, stock account. Nominal account are about accounts of the income and expenditure. Now, if it is a personal account, what is the rule of the accounting? Debit the receiver, credit the giver. If somebody is taking money from you or money is worth from you, you have to debit him. If he is giving to you, you have to credit. So you just compare your passbook. Whenever you withdraw money from the bank, bank debits your account because you are a receiver from the bank. And when you deposit money in the bank, bank credits you because you are a giver to the bank. Trial balance. Because sometimes we are only interested in knowing balance. We are not interested in knowing in transactions. How much I have to pay to somebody, how much I have to receive from somebody. I require only balance column. Then this is called trial balance. So trial balance is the summary of all the balances in all the accounts as on given date. So tallying of trial balance generally ensures the arithmetical accuracy of process of ledger posting. If the journalizing is done properly, if ledger posting is done properly, normally trial balance will tally. It means all the debits will be equal to all the credits. Because every debit has got corresponding credit. And what is the format of trial balance? Trial balance as on 31st March 2021, the date is written. Name of the account. If it is debit balance is written. If it is credit balance is written. So an account will have either debit balance or credit balance. It will not have both. And when the total is taken, the total of debit balance is equal to total of credit balance. That is called trial balance. It gives the summary of your accounts. You need not go to journal or ledger to know how much you have to receive or how much you have to pay. Now, what is meaning of financial statement? We use the word financial statement, final accounts. So financial statement means basically balance sheet, profit and loss account, and other operative data. What is meant by financial statement analysis? It means analysis, comparison, and interpretation of financial data to achieve the desired results. So here, what was my position last year? What is my position this year? That is also analysis. How much growth is there? That is absolute growth. In terms of percentage, what is the growth? So evaluating relationship between the component parts of the financial statement. Because in assets, there are again different components are there. Liability, there are different components are there. What is the portion of each component in the liabilities or asset? Normally, this profitability statement is given in the format like this. It is called operating statement also. So you might have heard the word bottom line. Bottom line normally means profit after tax because it is at the bottom. The figure comes at the bottom. When the profit is the bottom line, sales is the top line. Because this operating statement starts with sales. Sales minus manufacturing cost, then you get gross profit. You debit your administrative and selling expenses, you get operating profit. Then non-operating income, non-operating loss, you make adjustment for that, you get profit before tax. Then you pay income tax, whatever is left is profit after tax. So normally the companies publish their operating statement in this format, particular format. So profit after tax is called bottom line. So if you take care of the top line, bottom line will take care of itself. It means you have to increase the sales if you want to increase the profit. More turnover, more profit. Now let us have a small overview of the balance sheet. So as you know, balance sheet is a listing of the assets and liabilities of an organization at any given point of time. So this profit loss statement is for the whole year, whole period. It may be quarterly, half yearly or yearly. If it is for the year, it is for the whole year. So it is mentioned from to or for the year. But balance sheet is always as on a given point of time, as on that date. And it comprises of two portions, liabilities and assets. And liabilities are called sources of funds. And assets are called application of funds or use of funds. And liabilities are basically divided into three parts: own funds, term liabilities, that is borrowed capital, and current liabilities. And assets are also divided into three parts: fixed assets, non-current assets, and current assets. Within fixed assets, we can have tangible assets and intangible assets. Tangible assets means basically whatever we can see, touch, feel, like furniture, machinery, land, building. Intangible assets, they are the assets, but you cannot touch them. They are existing, like patents, copyrights. Now, in liabilities, we have seen three parts: own funds, that is normally called as a paid up capital for the companies; money invested by the owner or shareholders in case of company is called paid up capital, own funds. It includes profit also, reserves also. Then term liabilities are called borrowed capital, loan taken from outsiders, and they are payable after 1 year. So own funds and term liability together, they are called long-term sources. So in finance, normally long-term means more than 1 year, short-term means up to 1 year. And the third one is current liabilities, that is the amount payable within 1 year. So 1 plus 2, they are called as long-term sources, and current liabilities are called as short-term sources. Why this classification is required? Because short-term source should be used for short-term purpose. Long-term source can be used for long-term purpose. So within own funds, what are the items? We include paid up capital plus free reserves, plus you are also adding profit balance in the profit account. If there is loss, you are deducting it. And if it is drawings, like proprietor, partner, they withdraw money from the company, they are deducted from the capital. So the net amount is called net own funds, or it is also called tangible net worth. Okay. So how much loan you can expect depends upon this figure. Because if you got more net worth, you can expect more loan. So this figure should be 1/3 of your loans. Because the ratio says, debt equity ratio says 3:1. It means what? If you got 1 rupee in your pocket, you can expect a loan of 3 rupees. Okay? If you got 1 lakh in your pocket, you can expect a loan of 3 lakh rupees. If you have already taken loan of 2 lakhs, then you can expect an additional loan of 1 lakh. So how much loan you are eligible depends upon how much money you have invested. Because this money becomes margin money for the total project. This money becomes your margin money. So what are the components of term liabilities? Borrowings from friends and relatives. Because normally these proprietors, partners, they also borrow from their funds and relatives. Borrowing from term lending institutions, DFIs, developmental financial institutions like NABARD, Exim Bank. Borrowings from banks, term loan from banks, deferred tax liability, debentures. Debentures are a loan taken from the general public, just like shares. Debentures are issued to the general public. So loan taken from large number of the investors. Public deposits, just like you keep deposit in bank, you can keep deposit in a company. That is called public deposit. And other liabilities payable after 1 year. They are the component of term liabilities. So what is the difference between debenture and public deposits? Public deposits are unsecured. If the company goes into liquidation, then depositor loses money. Whereas debentures are secured. That is the only difference. And what is the difference between shares and debentures? Shareholders are the owners of the company. Debenture holders are the lenders to the company. They are given loan to the company. They are not owners. So they get interest on debentures. Whereas shareholders get dividend on their shares. They get share in the profit. And what are the components of current liabilities? Cash credit from bank, that is overdraft facility. Installment of term loans payable within 12 months. They are also part of the current liability. Outstanding liabilities towards credit purchases, which you call as a bills payable or creditors. Provision for expenses. Provision for outstanding expenses बोल सकते हैं, outstanding liability for expenses बोल सकते हैं. Then provision for dividend or tax. income received in advance, other liabilities payable within 1 year. These are the part of the current liabilities. Now the components of assets: fixed assets, non-current assets, and current assets. So fixed assets are investment in the form of land and building, plant and machinery, furniture, vehicles, etc., computers. Non-current assets, any assets receivable after 1 year. Written here within, but actually it is after 1 year. Suppose you invested in national savings certificate in the post office. You will get after maybe 5 years, 6 years. Then that is non-current assets. Investments. Some earnest money you are given, security deposit you are given. Here again, fixed assets and non-current assets together, they are called as long-term uses because they are recoverable after 1 year. And current assets, asset receivable within 1 year, they are called short-term uses. Assets are called uses, liabilities are called sources. What are the components of the fixed assets? Land and building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixtures, vehicles, electrical equipments, computers and electronic equipments, capital work in progress. This classification is normally based on the depreciation rate because different class of assets have got different depreciation rates. So they are based on the depreciation rates. Again, land and building shown separately because land doesn't have depreciation, whereas building has got depreciation. And they are called tangible assets up to here, up to 7. There can be intangible asset, an asset which appears in the balance sheet but may not reflect a real asset. So examples are laws, drawings, goodwill, patents. They are the examples of intangible asset. They appear on the asset side, but they may not be asset. What are the components of non-current assets? Investments receivable after 1 year, earnest money, that is and security deposit. For getting some agency, you give security deposit. For taking loan, sometimes you give bank guarantee and all, you give some deposit to the bank. You cannot withdraw as long as guarantee is there. Then they are called as non-current assets. What are the components of current assets? Cash on hand, balance in bank accounts, credit balance in bank accounts, raw materials, work in process, finished good. So all the three together they are called as inventory: raw material, work in process, and finished good. Debtors and receivables, bills receivables, advance paid, prepaid expenses like insurance. Suppose you have taken insurance policy in the month of 1st January. You have paid a premium for 1 year, but as on March only one quarter is covered. So premium for the 3/4 year is called prepaid expenses. Accrued income. Suppose you have kept NSC, you have taken from the post office, National Savings Certificate. Interest is accrued, but you have not received it. So that is called accrued income. Income earned but not received. And there can be other current assets also. There is a word called contingent liabilities and contingent assets. What is meant by contingent? So these figures do not appear in the balance sheet as liabilities and assets. They are shown in the footnote. So what is meant by contingent? It depends upon something else. That is why it is called contingent. So contingent liabilities means they are not liabilities at present, but they may become liabilities in future. So guarantee given by a firm for a loan taken by another firm. If that firm doesn't pay, then you have to pay the amount. Then it may become liability for you in future. Similarly, contingent assets. They are not assets, they may become asset in future. Example is insurance claim. You have claimed the insurance, but you may receive money or you may not receive money. So let us look at the overview of balance sheet. This left side we have got liabilities, right side we have got assets. Let us say somebody has started a business with 100 rupees. Then that 100 rupees becomes NOF, net own funds or own capital. So it means if he has got 100 rupees, he is eligible for a loan of 300 rupees subject to other conditions. Let us assume he has taken a loan of 200 rupees. It means his long-term sources become 300 because net own funds and term liabilities together, they are called long-term sources. And let us assume he has taken a cash credit facility of 50 rupees from bank And OCL stands for other current liabilities, 250, like creditors. So then 300 is short-term source. 300 is long-term source. So this is called acquisition of capital, raising of finance, source of finance. Then where this money is invested? 150 is invested in fixed assets. So out of this amount, from this long-term source is 300, 150 has gone to fixed asset. 50 has gone to non-current assets, 200, and remaining 400 has gone into current assets. So these current assets are called short-term use, and these fixed assets and non-current assets together they are called long-term use, and both together they are called long-term source, and current liabilities are called short-term source. This is the overall structure of the balance sheet. So balance sheet, we call it as a balance sheet because it has to balance. Total liability should be equal to total assets. The liabilities we have got short-term liabilities, that is current liabilities, borrowed capital, that is term liability, and own capital. It is also called as equity. Own capital is called equity. Then assets, we have got short-term assets called current assets, investments, that is called non-current assets, and fixed assets. So your balance sheet shows your financial position, how strong you are financially. When you go to the bank, when you produce the balance sheet, and as a businessman, you should yourself able to assess your own balance sheet, interpret your own balance sheet, self-appraisal of your balance sheet, you should be able to know. What are the plus points in your balance sheet and what are the minus points in your balance sheet? Every business should be able to understand it, whether it's finance or non-finance background. Now let us come to another topic which non-finance people should understand is about factors of production. In economics, we call it as the factors of production. Because whenever you want to do any business, we require 4 types of factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So for using these factors, we pay a cost for that. For using land, we pay rent. For using labor, we pay wages. For using capital, we pay interest. That is called cost of capital, cost of labor, cost of land. Then all the 3 are expenses. Rent is an expenditure, wages is an expenditure, interest is an expenditure. So when your income is more than this expenditure, the difference portion is called profit, and that go to the entrepreneur. So you are an entrepreneur, you are MSME, you are getting profit. So your profit is not fixed. Whereas this rent cost is fixed, wages are fixed, interest is fixed. Your profit is not fixed. It depends upon your income. If your income is less than the expenses, you will be in loss. You have to bear the loss. And if your income is more than the expenses, you will get profit. And if your income is more, you will get more profit. So profit is the reward for you for taking this risk. Because as an entrepreneur, you are arranging land, you are hiring labor, you are taking loan, you are doing some business, you are taking some risk. And for taking some risk, you are entitled to get some reward, and that reward is profit. So profit is the reward for taking risk and bearing uncertainty. So you are entitled to your profit for the risk you are taking, for the efforts you are putting in. But for that you have to earn more income than your expenditure. So you should be, when you say income, it is basically sales. Sales minus cost is equal to profit. The formula I told you, selling price minus cost price is equal to profit. So as a non-finance person, you should have basic idea about types of cost. Basically, there are 3 types of cost: fixed cost, variable cost, and semi-variable cost. At least let us understand fixed and variable. What is meant by fixed cost? Once you start a business, suppose you have taken a premise on a rental basis, you start paying rent. Whether you do business or not, whether more business, less business, rent is same. And if you have taken loan, interest is same. They are called fixed cost. The cost is always same whether you do more business or less business or no business. They are called fixed cost. Cost remains constant at every level of your activity, 0 to 100% capacity. Whereas variable cost is like raw material cost. If you produce more, you spend more. Your production is 0, cost is 0. That is called a variable cost. If a person has taken loan for auto rickshaw, if he doesn't use it, then there is no variable cost. But still you have to pay interest, you have to pay taxes, then that is fixed cost. So if he runs more, he has to spend more on the petrol. That is variable cost. And semi-variable cost is a combination of two. Up to certain level, it is fixed cost. Thereafter, it becomes variable cost. Normally, it applies where there is a minimum condition. Like there used to be minimum telephone bill for landlines earlier. That is the example of semi-variable cost. And as an entrepreneur, you should know the meaning of marginal cost. What is meant by marginal cost? So marginal cost is a change in the total cost of production as a result of change in the production of one unit. So the marginal of production is the increase in the total cost as a result of producing one extra unit. So it is the variable cost associated with the production of one more unit. Let us look at an example. Suppose you are producing 10 units and your cost is 100 rupees. And you produce 11 units, the cost becomes 109. Then what is the cost of producing 11th unit? The cost of producing 11th unit is 9 rupees. So then the 9 rupees is the marginal cost of producing 11th unit. Now, if you sell anything, selling price if you want to fix, it should be anything more than 9. Because if you fix the selling price less than the marginal cost, you will be in loss. Your selling price has to be more than your marginal cost or variable cost. So how the cost behaves? Let us look at the behavior of the cost. The total fixed cost is constant. A business kam karo, zyada karo. So average fixed cost is decreasing gradually. So when you start doing business, making productions, average fixed cost becomes lower and lower and lower. Total variable cost is increasing gradually because variable cost is varying. If you produce more, you have to spend more. But the average variable cost is constant because average cost is constant, per unit is constant. Total cost is increasing gradually, but average total cost is decreasing gradually. And there is a relation between cost, volume, and profit. Cost means cost price, volume means sale price, and profit. Okay, selling price minus cost price is equal to profit. That is the relation. So if volume goes up, your sales go up, naturally your profit goes up. The same concept is called as economy of scale. What is meant by economy of scale? Scale means scale of production or a level of production. So as you increase the scale of production, average fixed cost goes on decreasing and it becomes negligible. So total cost also goes on decreasing and it almost becomes equal to variable cost. So a big organization can increase the scale of production to reduce its average cost of production, and it can sell at a lower price than the competitors or small firms. This is called economy of scale. The production cost of the big firm is less, average cost of production is less compared to small firms. So this is an example of the economy of scale. So cost per unit goes on decreasing as the number of units increase. And this is also called as experience curve. As you experience the higher and higher production, your average cost of production goes down. It means you can sell at lesser price and you can compete with others. So if you want to compete with others, your selling price has to be comparatively less than the competitors. That you can achieve by producing more. So the most important thing is about cost sheet, because selling price is equal to cost per profit. What are the things that go into cost? You should know each and every item that is going into the cost of production so that you can calculate the cost correctly and you can fix selling price correctly. The first of all, when you manufacture anything, there is material cost, that is raw material cost, then labor cost. Both together is called prime cost. And when you add other direct manufacturing expenses to it, it becomes factory cost. These are all the, up to 3, it is direct cost, direct material cost, direct labor cost, and direct manufacturing cost. Direct means you can directly identify, for producing this, I needed this, I made this cost. But indirect cost, it is common expenses. They are also called as overheads. You cannot identify them with a particular production, but you have to distribute them amongst various products. They are called factory overheads or indirect cost. And when you add indirect cost, it becomes cost of goods sold. Now you can take it as a cost price for arriving at your gross profit. You add administrative expenses like staff salary, rent of the office premises, that is administrative expenses, then that is called total cost of production. Selling expenses, salary of the salesperson, bad debts, they are coming under selling expenses, door delivery charges, transportation, outward carriage, it is called outward carriage, packing charges, packing material for selling. Primary packing material comes under material cost. Then that becomes cost of sales. And when you divide them by number of units sold, you get selling price per unit. So at what price you sold them. So if you want to know the cost of production, total cost of production divided by number of units, you get cost of production per unit. So if you do not know the meaning of this, or if you make a mistake in calculating them, then you will be incurring loss. Because when you calculate these things, three, four things we don't take into account normally, non-finance people especially. What they don't take into account? Yes, sir, please. So with this, we'll be explaining the cost sheet and I'll conclude. So what are the costs we are not including here is, they are actually called as the opportunity cost. What is meant by opportunity cost? Salary for own expenses as an entrepreneur working in your own organization. But you are not taking salary for that. That salary also you have to take into account. Your own salary will always same. Buy low, sell high principle. It is called buy low, sell high principle. So whatever you are buying, you have to sell at the higher price so that you can make profit.
Right. Okay. In the interest of time, we are actually running short, but I have not seen any other questions. However, I have received a lot of comments in the chat box, and people have really appreciated the simple way.
Okay.